Power doesn't simply belong to the one who desires it most. It belongs to the one who understands how to move unseen until it's too late to stop them. You've probably seen people who seem to get what they want almost effortlessly, while others, often more talented or more moral, keep stumbling, confused by the chaos around them. What separates them isn't luck. It's the invisible architecture of power, the kind of thinking Machiavelli spent his life dissecting. To plan like a mastermind, strike like a warrior, and conquer like a king isn't about domination for its own sake. It's about knowing how to operate in a world that rewards strategy over sincerity. Most people plan like dreamers, not masterminds. They map their goals in bright colors, list their steps, visualize outcomes, but they forget one thing. Every plan is a war disguised as a vision. Machiavelli would say, don't plan as if the world will cooperate. Plan as if it will resist. To plan like a mastermind means thinking in layers, like a chess player who sees not just his next move, but how his opponent will react 5 moves later. It's about preparing for betrayal even while shaking hands. It's the mental discipline of assuming nothing, predicting everything. Every real strategist understands that control isn't achieved by force, it's achieved by framing. Before you act, you set the stage, you shape perception. You make people believe they're choosing freely when, in fact, you've already written their script. Think of this as preparation in silence. The strongest generals never march without softening the ground first, not with armies, but with influence. Influence is the quiet power of suggestion that makes resistance look irrational. That's the foundation of any true plan. The moment you make others think your victory is in their best interest. But to plan like that, you need something deeper than intellect. You need patience. Patience is the weapon that separates the impulsive from the inevitable. The impulsive attack too early and die forgotten. The patient observe, wait, and strike when the timing feels almost supernatural. Machiavelli admired those who could suffer discomfort without losing their edge, who could appear calm while calculating the downfall of those around them. That stillness before motion is what makes a mastermind terrifying. They never react, they respond. And every response has intent behind it. This is where the warrior steps in. Because no matter how perfect your plan, at some point, life demands action. You can't strategize your way out of every conflict. Eventually, you must swing the sword. To strike like a warrior isn't about aggression, it's about precision. The warrior doesn't waste energy on battles that don't matter. They don't announce their strikes. They deliver them when no one expects it, and always where it hurts most. That's not cruelty, it's efficiency. The greatest warriors don't fight because they love conflict. They fight because they understand peace is temporary and must be earned through strength. But strength in this context isn't about brute force. It's about conviction. When you strike, you must commit fully. Half measures destroy more kings than defeat ever could. A hesitant strike reveals weakness, and weakness invites chaos. Machiavelli warned that once you move against someone, you must crush them so thoroughly that they cannot rise again. It sounds ruthless, but it's a principle of survival. Mercy, when shown too early, becomes a liability. And yet, the true art lies in knowing when mercy strengthens your image and when it dilutes your authority. There's a rhythm to power, an alternation between stillness and motion, cunning and courage. The mastermind and the warrior are not opposites. They are two sides of the same being. The planner hides the sword until the moment comes, and the warrior swings it without hesitation because the plan already accounted for the outcome. That unity between thought and action is what makes conquest possible. When thought and action move as one, hesitation disappears. You don't question, you execute. Now, to conquer like a king means more than victory. Victory is temporary. Conquest is permanence. Most people misunderstand what it means to rule. They think it's about being obeyed. But true kingship, in Machiavelli's terms, is about being indispensable. You conquer not by removing your rivals, but by becoming the center around which everything else revolves. You make your presence necessary. Remove yourself and the system collapses. That's the ultimate form of control, when others serve your interests because they cannot function without you. A king doesn't chase loyalty. He designs it. Through fear, through respect, through structure. Fear keeps the bold in line. Respect keeps the wise close. Structure keeps the rest busy. But here's the paradox. If all you use is fear, you rule over silence, not loyalty. If all you use is love, you invite betrayal. The balance between them is what defines the true ruler, the ability to keep people guessing whether they adore or fear you more. That tension keeps them loyal out of uncertainty, which ironically is more reliable than affection. And yet, none of this works if you lack self-control. The first kingdom you conquer must always be yourself. Every weakness in your discipline becomes a weapon in someone else's hand. If you crave validation, it will be used against you. If you lose your temper, your enemies will provoke it. Machiavelli believed that the ruler who cannot rule his own impulses will soon be ruled by those who can manipulate them. To conquer like a king is to govern your own mind with the same ruthlessness you govern your world. But let's be honest, thinking and acting like this comes at a cost. It's exhausting to live in awareness, to always anticipate the unseen. You'll start noticing manipulation where others see friendliness. You'll realize silence speaks louder than praise, and that realization might make you feel detached, like a strategist watching life from above instead of living within it. That's the trade. Mastery of control costs a piece of innocence. But what you gain in exchange is vision, and vision is the true source of freedom. So how do you build that kind of vision? You start by observing without judgment. Watch how people react under stress, how they disguise envy as advice, how they test boundaries subtly. Every social interaction is a move on the board. Most people just don't see it because they're too emotional to step back. The mastermind detaches just enough to see patterns. They don't moralize, they analyze. That's how you start seeing not just what people say, but what they want. And once you understand what someone wants, you can predict everything they'll do next. Machiavelli would tell you, never assume people act out of principle. Assume they act out of interest. That doesn't mean everyone's selfish. It means everyone's driven by something: fear, desire, pride, comfort. If you can identify which one governs someone, you can shape their behavior without ever giving an order. You can guide their choices while making them believe they're free. That's influence at its purest, and it's far more powerful than command. But don't confuse influence with deceit. Deceit is short-term. It breaks when discovered. Influence lasts because it doesn't hide its existence. It simply blends with people's reality until it feels natural. A lie creates resistance. Influence creates alignment. The art lies in subtlety, in knowing how to let people believe what benefits you most without ever forcing it upon them. Planning, striking, conquering, all of it depends on perception. Your greatest victories will never be the ones people see, but the ones they don't. The conversation that changed a decision. The pause that made someone reveal their fear. The small favor that planted a debt. The quiet observation that saved you from betrayal. Every major triumph begins as an invisible one. That's why power doesn't announce itself. It accumulates quietly until one day it's undeniable. Those who constantly seek to prove their strength are usually compensating for its absence. The true player, the one who's mastered both mind and motion, doesn't need validation. Their presence speaks before they do. They can walk into a room and change its temperature without a single word, because everyone senses this is someone who knows exactly what they're doing and exactly when to do it. And the reason they know is because they've already planned the chaos you're still trying to understand. The truth is, most people lose not because they're weak, but because they're predictable. Their emotions trace the same patterns again and again. Pride when praised, panic when criticized, anger when challenged. A mastermind studies those reactions the way a hunter studies the habits of prey. If you can predict emotion, you can predict behavior. And once you can predict behavior, you can orchestrate outcomes. That's not manipulation, that's awareness elevated to power. Machiavelli didn't ask you to be heartless, he asked you to be unshakable, to feel but never let feeling dictate your direction. One of the most dangerous things you can do in any arena, politics, business, relationships, is to believe that people act rationally. They don't. They act emotionally and then justify their emotions with logic afterward. So if you want to move a crowd, you don't appeal to reason. You appeal to the story they already believe. You wrap your intentions in the language of their desires. You don't force them to change their mind. You give them the illusion that agreeing with you was their idea all along. That's what it means to wield influence without resistance. It's the same reason why some leaders can make people fight for them, even when it defies their own interests. They don't command obedience. They inspire alignment. Machiavelli called this the art of appearing virtuous while acting effectively. Appear merciful, but strike without hesitation. Appear honest, but reveal only what benefits you. Appear loyal, but keep your freedom of choice sacred. The trick isn't to fake goodness. It's to let others project it onto you while you quietly pursue your purpose. But none of this matters if you crumble under pressure. The higher you rise, the more you'll be tested. There will be moments when your plan collapses, when alliances break, when the people who praised you yesterday turn against you today. That's when most abandon their strategy and react. The wise, however, understand that collapse is often camouflage. In chaos, most people become readable. They show you their fears. The true strategist uses disorder as clarity. They don't resist it, they let it unfold and watch where everyone runs. And when they strike again, it's surgical. They've seen who panics, who hesitates, who betrays. That knowledge becomes the new map of power. It's not always about winning the battle. Sometimes it's about seeing who reveals themselves during it. Machiavelli would remind you that fortune favors the prepared mind, but only the disciplined survive her tests. The storm doesn't destroy the strategist. It exposes who was pretending to be one. Planning, striking, conquering, they all depend on your ability to control perception. But that control starts internally. Before you can project strength, you must first believe in your own inevitability. Think about it. A lion doesn't convince others it's dangerous. Its confidence is silent but absolute. You can feel it before it moves. That's the kind of energy that makes others adjust to you before you even act. You don't persuade them to respect you. You embody something that forces their instinct to respect you. Presence becomes persuasion. And presence isn't loud, it's consistency. People trust what doesn't waver. The moment you lose composure, they sense weakness. The moment you explain too much, they sense doubt. Silence, restraint, and precision, those are the tools of the conqueror. Every unnecessary word dilutes authority. Every visible insecurity becomes a weapon in your opponent's hand. So you speak less, but when you do, your words carry weight because they're rare. You become someone whose approval means something, whose criticism cuts deep. That's how power compounds, not through volume, but through scarcity. But let's step back for a moment. Why does any of this matter? Because every person, consciously or not, is engaged in a silent competition for control. Control of their life, their image, their direction. Those who understand this dynamic rise. Those who ignore it get used by those who don't. The world doesn't reward the sincere. It rewards the strategic. And yet, strategy without purpose becomes emptiness. You plan, you strike, you win. But if you don't know why, you'll still feel defeated. Machiavelli's wisdom wasn't about cynicism. It was about clarity. To see human nature as it is, not as we wish it to be. And to build from that realism something enduring. So, what does endurance look like for a modern king? It's not a throne or a crown. It's stability. The kind that can't be shaken by trends, rumors, or temporary loss. It's the ability to adapt without losing essence. Every empire, no matter how mighty, eventually collapses when it stops adapting. The same applies to people. You conquer once by force, but you rule forever by flexibility. Rigidity masquerades as strength, but it's brittle. A true king bends just enough to redirect the storm's energy. Flexibility isn't weakness, it's wisdom wearing armor. The strategist within you must never become arrogant. The moment you start believing you're untouchable, you've already started to decay. That's the silent killer of all empires. Comfort. When victories come too easily, vigilance fades. And when vigilance fades, enemies multiply. The antidote is self-audit. Question your own decisions more than others do. Doubt your own motives before someone else exposes them. Keep your mind sharper than your ego. Machiavelli believed that a ruler surrounded by flatterers is doomed, but a ruler who fears flattery and seeks criticism grows untouchable. And yet, no empire, not even internal, can stand without loyalty. So how do you create loyalty that lasts? You don't buy it, and you don't beg for it. You engineer it. You give people a reason to need your success for their own. You tie their stability to yours. Make them win when you win, and they'll protect you, even from themselves. That's the secret most leaders miss. People don't follow power, they follow prosperity. If aligning with you makes their life easier, they'll rationalize every decision you make. That's not manipulation, that's architecture. But let's not forget, to build like that, you must also understand when to destroy. Not out of cruelty, but necessity. Some structures only collapse when you stop propping them up. Some relationships, some alliances, some habits, they drain energy you could invest elsewhere. The warrior understands that letting go is an act of dominance too. You can't hold the sword and the past at the same time. Sometimes the most strategic move isn't conquest, it's absence. The space you leave becomes a message in itself. Silence has a way of forcing reflection that words never could. And in that silence, something powerful happens. People begin to rewrite the story of you in their minds. They start remembering your strength, exaggerating your influence, idealizing your mystery. Absence amplifies power because imagination is a better ally than presence. When you're too available, people take you for granted. When you disappear at your peak, they mythologize you. Machiavelli understood this well. Distance isn't just a tactic, it's a form of dominance. The less you need attention, the more attention gravitates toward you. All of this leads to a single principle: control the narrative or be consumed by it. Every person, every brand, every ruler lives within the stories others tell about them. The difference between power and powerlessness lies in authorship. The moment you stop shaping perception, someone else does it for you, and they'll always write a version that benefits them, not you. So you must become your own narrator, not through words, but through consistent, deliberate behavior. People believe patterns, not promises. Create a pattern of strength, calm, and inevitability, and the world will write your legend for you. But the cost of that control is solitude. The strategist walks alone more often than not because they reject others, but because they operate at a depth most can't see. When you stop reacting emotionally, others will call you cold. When you play the long game, they'll call you detached. When you win quietly, they'll call you lucky. That's the loneliness of clarity, to see the game for what it is and still play it better than anyone else. Yet in that solitude lies freedom. The freedom to move without explaining, to decide without consensus, to exist without disguise. That's what it means to conquer like a king. Not to sit on a throne, but to stand alone, self-governed, self-assured, unshaken. Because the final conquest isn't of others, it's of the chaos within you. Once you master that, every other battlefield becomes predictable. Every opponent becomes readable. Every outcome becomes inevitable. And that truly is the essence of power. To move through the world not needing to dominate it, because you already own yourself. Power, in its purest form, isn't loud or dramatic. It's quiet, calculated, almost invisible. The strongest player in any room is rarely the one who speaks most. It's the one who makes others speak in ways that reveal themselves. The one who watches, listens, and shapes the current of conversation without ever appearing to steer it. That's what it means to be both strategist and ruler, to guide without forcing, to command without demanding. The moment you start fighting for power openly, you've already lost half of it. The other half goes to the one who made you reveal your hand. To live by this philosophy requires a strange kind of courage, the courage to delay gratification, to watch opportunities pass because you know better ones are coming. The impulsive chase what's visible, the patient claim what's lasting. Machiavelli admired those who didn't confuse motion with progress. You can be busy and still powerless, but when every step has intent, every pause becomes part of the attack. That's how real power feels from the inside, not frantic, but deliberate. You don't chase opportunities. You design them. But let's talk about something most people never consider, the art of disguise. Not deceit, but adaptation. The ability to adjust your tone, your demeanor, even your pace to the environment around you. Machiavelli understood that survival isn't about showing your true self, it's about showing the version that gets you through the gate. The snake doesn't hiss in the garden. It moves in silence until the moment it strikes. A true strategist learns to wear masks that reflect the needs of each situation, not because they're fake, but because they understand that rigidity is a death sentence in politics, in business, in life itself. Still, disguise is useless without detachment. You can't play a role effectively if you start believing in it. The moment your identity fuses with your image, you become a slave to it. That's the tragedy of many powerful figures. They build a persona so convincing that they forget it was once a weapon, not a mirror. Detachment keeps you flexible. It reminds you that you're the author of your image, not its captive. To control perception, you must remain slightly outside it, aware of the performance, even as you perform. But power isn't just defense. Eventually, you must expand. And expansion isn't about territory or followers. It's about influence. Influence spreads through alignment, not force. You don't impose your will on people. You make them see their reflection in your ambition. That's the secret of every enduring empire. People didn't serve the emperor because they feared him. They served because they believed serving him served them. Influence isn't taken. It's granted voluntarily. Once you've mastered the art of making others feel seen, understood, and strategically valued. Now, here's the paradox. The more influence you gain, the less you should use it directly. The moment people sense your hand behind every decision, your mystique dissolves. A king must never appear obsessed with control. The best control is invisible. The kind that lets people act naturally while unknowingly reinforcing your agenda. It's like gravity. It doesn't command, it compels. And that's why the most effective ruler never demands loyalty. They create systems where disloyalty feels self-destructive. But what happens when even those systems are challenged? When the unexpected happens? Betrayal, collapse, loss. This is where most leaders unravel. They mistake control for stability. Yet Machiavelli knew that chaos is part of the natural order. The ruler's strength isn't in avoiding it, but in riding it. When chaos strikes, the weak react. The powerful adapt. They use disorder as a forge, shaping new hierarchies from what others see as ruins. Because in every collapse lies opportunity, power vacuums that only the prepared can recognize and fill. This ability to thrive amid uncertainty comes from perspective. The warrior thinks in battles. The king thinks in decades. The warrior seeks victory. The king seeks continuity. To conquer like a king, you must see beyond the moment, beyond the emotional surge of the win or loss. You must think like time itself, slow, patient, inevitable. Every empire that endures does so because its leader planted seeds that outlived them. They built structures of power, alliances, legacies, systems that survived their fall. The wise ruler measures success not by applause, but by resilience. And that resilience comes from understanding one brutal truth. Control is an illusion that must be constantly renewed. People change. Loyalties shift, fortunes turn. The strategist doesn't fear this. They plan for it. They rotate their sources of strength, diversify alliances, refresh networks, train successors. They make themselves the constant even as everything else changes. Machiavelli's real message wasn't just be cunning. It was be adaptable, because even the most brilliant plan dies if it can't evolve. But let's look at power from another angle, the personal one. To lead others effectively, you must first lead yourself with the same discipline you demand of them. That means mastering your own inner court, your fears, your desires, your impulses. Every human has an internal counsel. Ambition whispers one thing, insecurity whispers another. Pride interrupts them both. The king within must learn when to listen and when to silence. You can't strategize clearly if your own emotions are at war. Self-rule isn't glamorous, but it's the foundation of all external rule. Without it, you're just another pawn wearing a crown. And yet, power has a strange way of testing the soul. The moment you start winning, temptations appear, not of the obvious kind, but subtle ones. The temptation to believe your instincts are infallible. The temptation to stop learning because you're already ahead. The temptation to think fear equals respect. These are the poisons that turn rulers into tyrants and thinkers into fools. Machiavelli understood that the greatest danger of power is not losing it. It's forgetting what it's for. The goal isn't dominance for its own sake. It's mastery of circumstance, of self, of destiny. But to hold that mastery, you must also know when to retreat. Not every fight deserves your presence. Not every insult deserves a response. To conquer like a king, you must resist the urge to prove yourself at every turn. A lion doesn't roar to convince the forest it's strong. It roars when it chooses. Silence, when used intentionally, is not weakness. It's a psychological weapon. It creates tension, uncertainty. And uncertainty, more than fear, is what keeps others cautious around you. You see, unpredictability is the final layer of power. Once people think they've figured you out, they start building strategies around your patterns. So you must occasionally break your own rhythm. Surprise them. Withdraw when they expect aggression. Smile when they expect anger. Show mercy when they expect cruelty. Consistency builds trust, but unpredictability maintains authority. The perfect ruler balances both, dependable in purpose, unpredictable in method. And when all of this converges, the plan, the strike, the conquest, something remarkable happens. You stop reacting to the world, and the world starts reacting to you. You become a gravitational force, drawing opportunities, allies, and even adversaries into your orbit. Because power, at its core, is not about control, it's about magnetism. You attract the game to your board, and once it's there, you play by your rules. That's the legacy of the true Machiavellian mind. To plan with foresight, act with precision, and rule with presence so unshakable that even chaos bends around it. You become less a player in the world and more a force moving through it, unseen, inevitable, unrelenting. And when your final move lands, no one calls it luck or timing or coincidence. They simply say it was bound to happen.